Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
This episode of the Steadfast and Loyal podcast is brought to us by our dear friends at the United States Concealed Carry Association. The United States CCA helps responsible Americans like you prepare for what happens before, during, and after an active act of lawful self-defense. USCCA members get life-saving education, expert training, plus self-defense liability insurance. Plus, a USCCA membership is always risk-free with their 100% money-back bulletproof guarantee. Membership is truly an investment worth exploring. Click Learn More below right now to activate your U.S. Concealed Carry Association membership. Click Learn More right now. And also, one of the benefits of being a member, you get their monthly Concealed Carry magazine. And as a reminder, the United States Concealed Carry Association is not an insurance company. A policy has been issued to the USCCA by Universal Fire and Casualty Insurance Company. That policy provides the association and its members with self-defense liability insurance subject to its terms, conditions, limitations, and exclusions. In the summer of 1996, Nick Searcy produced, directed, and acted in his first independent feature, Carolina Low. Searcy's other film credits include the blockbusters Nell, 1994, The Fugitive, 93, Castaway in 2000, Head of State in 2003. And if you have not seen Head of State, you need to see it. He and Chris Rock will have you laughing forever. Runaway Jury, 2003, The Ugly Truth, 2009. He broke onto the scene as the villain Frank Bennett in Universal's Fried Green Tomatoes. Searcy is a veteran of several television series. He had a recurring role on ABC's Thunder Alley, 1994, was a series regular on CBS's American Gothic, UPN's 7 Days, and ABC's Rodney, and has guest starred on Boston Legal, CSI Crime Scene Investigation, and The West Wing, among others. He has also starred in several movies of the week, including The Best of Families, Marriage, Pride and Madness, Stolen Innocence, all for CBS. Searcy was a series regular on HBO's From the Earth to the Moon. Searcy's theater credits include several off-Broadway plays and regional stock productions of Guys and Dolls, Cabaret, and Jesus Christ Superstar. He is the driving force behind Gosnell, the trial of America's biggest serial killer, which he also directed, and Capital Punishment, the movie capturing what happened on January 6th and its aftermath. And without a doubt, I'm sure you all remember him in that incredible series, Justified, which I was glued to. Searcy is married to the actress Leslie Riley, and they have 2 children, Chloe and Omar. Nick Searcy, thank you so much, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
Thank you, Alan. That was a very impressive biography. I was wondering, who's he talking about?
Well, I just looked it up on eBay and figured I could just, shove it in under your name. No, get out of town. Just want to thank you for all that you have done. You've been an incredible voice as an outspoken conservative and a forthright and resolute person in an industry that really does not welcome a lot of conservatism and conservative thought. And with that being said, let's start off by talking about what happened at the Academy Awards. I mean, most people are not watching the Academy Awards now, but we woke up. Yeah, me either. But we woke up Monday to hear 2 words that we had never heard before in the Academy Awards, and that was the American Dream with the young man that won the Best Supporting Actor. Do you think things may be changing a little bit in Hollywood, or is it still the same vile, repulsive place that we have come to know?
No, I don't think it's changing.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that struck me too when he said that. And what occurred to me is that so many times in my life, the people that I've met that really understand the American dream aren't didn't grow up here.
That's
You
right.
know, they came here from another country that they know what real oppression is, and they know what communism, socialism does. And so for him to say that, I always thought, yeah, that's been my experience. It takes a person who came to this country by choice to really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was incredible for him to stand up there, and many of us remember him as a little kid in the Goonies and also Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. But he kind of disappeared, went off the radar screen. But for him to tell that story about coming here on a boat and living in a refugee camp, and now he's standing on the movie industry's biggest stage whatsoever, that is the American dream that says that no matter where you come from, no matter where you were born, this is how you can rise and have whatever level of success, as opposed to this equity and equality of outcomes mess that you see going on. And I would think, Nick, looking at the industry, the movie production industry, it's based on meritocracy. If you make a film, either it makes money or it doesn't make money. It's not about all films are being equal and that we're going to direct the outcomes thereof.
Well, that's funny. I talk about it a lot, that's not how the Hollywood model works anymore. It used to be that, if people didn't watch your show or people didn't go buy a ticket to your movie, that you were penalized for that. But now with the streaming services and everything, that's how movies are released. And so that stuff gets sort of spread out over everything else. So what's happening is it's kind of what I talk about in the Death of Hollywood series, is that people in Hollywood aren't really making movies for the audience to enjoy anymore. They're basically making movies to impress each other so that they can then get their next job and their next movie made that has the correct politics that everybody in Hollywood can celebrate.
Let's talk about that because you're on Fox Nation speaking about the death of Hollywood. Has this been something, I think that the left has really sought to undermine all of the aspects of our culture, being it academia, the movie industry, entertainment industry, even now into the religious aspect of our country for the last 50, 60, maybe 70 years. You've been out there for quite some time. When did we see that shift from, I remember some of the older actors who served in uniform and some of the movies that were made. And now look at where we are today, where the left really had a hard time embracing Top Gun Maverick, which was a highly successful movie.
Right. Yeah, I think it's an interesting, I think it changed with Obama, because I think really what happened at that point was that the rebel left in Hollywood that used to make movies like Easy Rider and Five Easy Pieces and things that were kind of in opposition to the government or challenging to the government, at that point they became pro-government.
Yeah.
They're basically, everything in Hollywood now is obey the regime, stop trying to question authority. Everything that's the opposite of what I grew up with and the opposite of why I was attracted to the movies. Mm-hmm. To me, it was always, this is a real way to, speak truth to power in a way, but with the narrative storytelling, which is the most powerful way to convey an idea. And now narrative storytelling in Hollywood is all pro-government, pro-totalitarianism.
You just struck an incredible point, because you're right. Once upon a time, it was all about rising up against the man, D.A.
Right.
man. But now it has become 1984. It's become Orwellian, where you're right. You have to obey this thing called government. And, I think a lot of people are confused about that. I look at the Hunger Games series, where you had all the cool elite people living in the Capitol, but everybody else, they were out in the districts working to support people. And of course, you had no rights out into the districts. Do you think that, more Americans are waking up and seeing the subliminal messaging that Hollywood is trying to put out?
I definitely think so. I mean, I think so many people have turned it off, just sort of go, that's not for me. And they're looking for other ways. And thankfully, there are other outlets springing up, like the Daily Wire, like some other places where you can tell stories that are not part of the Hollywood mainstream. But I think even in Hollywood, there's some awakening happening. I mean, you had Woody Harrelson and Tim Robbins both coming out and going, "Hey, it's time to end that vaccine mandate nonsense,"
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it took them 3 years, and a lot of people's careers were derailed and destroyed because of that vaccine tyranny. But at least they're starting to come around. You got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, you do. I mean, as opposed to Governor Whitmer in Michigan, who now is trying to politically position herself, saying, "Oh, what I did, screwing everybody over for the past few years, I probably went too far." Once upon a time, I remember going out and speaking to the Friends of Abe out there
Yeah.
in Hollywood. Do they still exist, or what? Let us know about it, because this was a conservative group of actors, directors, producers, screenwriters, and everything. It was a blast.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, and it's kind of sad. There's some groups that are springing up that are kind of trying to be what Friends of Abe used to be, but it's not on the scale that it was at that time. I think Gary Sinise, when he kind of took time off to go do his work for the troops, that FOA kind of it faded away.
Yeah. Well, hopefully something will kind of replace it, and because so many of those young people coming out there, I mean, they need to wrap their arms around them and get them to understand you can have a support system out there. You just don't have to follow it. And I think that's one of the good things. I don't know. You follow the Babylon Bee, I'm sure. What they are doing is really showing that entertainment and conservatism, it can go together with satire as well. Let's talk about Gosnell, because in the black community, we have really failed to understand the detrimental effects of the theories of Margaret Sanger. How difficult was it for you to put together that movie that, as it says, the trial of America's biggest serial killer? What were some of the obstacles? What were the tidal waves that were against you in getting that movie out there?
Well, it's interesting. I remember when we were putting I signed on to direct it, and we were working on the script, and I was talking to my agent at that time about the movie, and he said, "Why do you want to do this?" And I go, "Well, I want to tell this story. I think it's an important story." And he's like, "You'll never get funding for it." And I said, "It's already funded. We crowdfunded it." And he said, "Oh, it's already funded? Well, have you thought about this actress? Have you thought about that actress?" Yeah. It's like, once they find out that you've got the money, and that you're willing to pay people, they'll do it. And so even at the casting director level, casting directors that were friends of mine that were, I would consider them very far left. When they read the script, they said, "Okay, this is a pretty fair look at what this man did." It's not necessarily anti-abortion in the sense that, you're lying about something to prove a point. Mm-hmm. You're telling a true story. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, people were ready to sign on, but when it comes to like putting actors and actresses in the movie, that's when you get the real resistance. They were afraid to stand behind that, even though they might have read the script and thought it was a fair look at it. They don't want to be seen as being on that side of the issue, because to them that would mean the death of their career.
Yeah.
So that was, finding people brave enough to do that movie was hard. It was difficult.
You talked about the funding issue. Has that gotten better for conservative or faith-based type of movies? I mean, because I think that's the real thing that's lacking on our side, because the other side, I mean, they just have a wealth of resources and plethora of resources. But are we getting better? We can't go peer-to-peer yet, I don't think, but are we improving our status as far as being able to resource these different types of projects?
Well, there's a few outlets springing up. It is better, but we still, on the conservative side, our investors don't trust the movie business, and for good reason. A lot of them have been burned. I mean, a lot of what has happened in the past few years is that you get people that are talked into investing in a conservative movie, and then the distribution is not so successful because Hollywood doesn't want this to be successful. So those people lose their money. And then they go, "Okay, I'm not doing that again."
Yeah.
And so that's happening over and over. More and more as movies like The Jesus Revolution, as these movies become more successful, I think we'll see an increasing level of investor interest in that. But it is difficult right now, and it's easier for like a strictly faith-based movie to get made right now than it is for a movie that, say, is not necessarily faith-based, but it's just not liberal.
Yeah.
Like if you tried to do like just a conservative political thriller right now, that would be more difficult to do than to do a straight up faith-based picture.
Yeah. Now, how about the streaming services? Do we see conservative entertainment moving onto some of these streaming platforms, or once again, there's a roadblock that is, or an obstacle up for those to be proliferated there?
Yeah, there's a roadblock up. I mean, it's very hard to get something on Netflix that's conservative, for sure. Amazon may be a little easier, but not much. I mean, they definitely, like, for example, I've made two documentaries, and Capital Punishment being about January 6th.
Yeah.
One before that was about the Constitution and the Bible and the relationship, and that was called God Shed His Grace on Thee. Both of those movies have been rejected, and they're available on Amazon, but only pay-per-view and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's still more difficult.
Let's talk about Capital Punishment and the January 6th documentary that you just did, which is a hot topic now thanks to the video footage that was released to Tucker Carlson. What drove you to really want to do that? Because at the time, I'm sure, once again, I mean, there are many pushbacks on you to have something like that done.
Oh, you bet. I decided to do it because I was there that day. I went there, and what I saw didn't match up anything with what the media was telling me. And so it started out as just like, well, this doesn't make sense. And my friend and I that went there, we had shot some footage on that day, not with the intention of making a film, just sort of like tourists. And so we started talking to people about it, and a group said, "Would you like to make a film about that?" And then we started talking to people that were being persecuted by the government, and people who were having their houses raided by the FBI. And these are people who've never been arrested for anything before, good Christian people with families, and it's like they're treating them like serial killers and like dangerous terrorists and stuff. And it just, the more we started to talk to people, the more outrageous it seemed to me. And so that we released Capital Punishment over a year ago, like November of 21.
Yeah.
And we called a lot of the things that Tucker Carlson has finally started talking about last week. And we're in the middle right now of making a sequel to Capital Punishment, because a lot of the people that we profiled in our first movie are now going to prison.
Yeah.
And they're basically being railroaded by the judicial system in the District of Columbia, which is so corrupt. And these people don't have a chance. And so I'm just trying to chronicle this. I don't have any hope that I'm really going to convert a lot of people, but I mean, I hope they watch the film, because I can't believe that anybody of any political stripe would support this kind of unfairness and this kind of judicial warfare against these people. But I'm just trying to chronicle it, because I think it needs to be. It's a part of history that needs to be preserved.
Well, it has to be, because it's judicial malfeasance, and it's a violation of, the basic of constitutional rights. I mean, just due process, or the withholding of exculpatory evidence. And so, what's amazing to me, Nick, is that, you're right. You're seeing people get thrown into prison, felony offenses. They've never even walked on grass before.
Right.
But yet you've got Antifa, and what we just saw happen in my birth town of Atlanta, Georgia. I haven't seen a single Antifa leader, be brought up on any type of charges. And of course, the left is out there raising all kinds of money to make bail for them, or the Jane's Revenge group that is going out there and, attacking pro-life advocacy centers and pregnancy centers. It's so important. That's why I'm so humbled that you would take the time out of your schedule to be here with us. But we need people like you that can put together these documentaries and get out there and challenge the other side to say, why is it that, people can burn down government buildings. And people can burn down a church across the street from the White House, or people can burn down and attack a law enforcement training facility, and you say nothing. You just wash your hands of it.
Right. And in the movie that we're making now, I mean, just the lies that are being told about these people in court. I mean, we talked to one defendant who said that he actually took a plea deal, because what they do to these people is they pile up these charges and they can't fight it. They don't have the money. And then they just take them. They just say, if you just take this one thing, you'll only do 6 or 12 months. And he said that the judge showed a videotape of him helping an officer up. And the officer was saying, thank you, as he lifted him up off the ground. But when they played the video, they didn't show the sound. They didn't play the sound. So the judge was saying, look at you attacking this officer. When in fact he was helping the officer, and the officer was saying thank you. But they just lie, and they railroad these people, and they do it for a political reason, and it's really disturbing and sick, and it makes you wonder for the future of the country. If they are allowed to continue to do this, this is really, really what you would see in a totalitarian society.
Yeah, I mean, complete totalitarianism, because if you don't agree with their ideological agenda, this is what they will end up doing with you. They will use lawfare to come at you. And D.C., this has become a Bastille, a gulag up there, and lives are being ruined. So in our final closing minutes, what's next for Nick Searcy?
Well, I'm going to hopefully get this documentary done. We're trying to get it out by July the 4th. I'm also got another documentary that I'm producing, which I'm excited about, with Reggie Miller.
The basketball Reggie Miller?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm a producer on a film a documentary series about the 1972 men's Olympic basketball team that got
railroaded.
By the Russians.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and that 1972 team, 11 of those 12 players are still alive, and they won't accept the silver medal to this day. Yeah. The silver medals are still in a vault somewhere in Europe. So I'm excited about that, and I'm also hopefully directing a feature towards the end of this year that I co-wrote with a friend. It's kind of a big action border movie, kind of. It's a Rambo movie without Stallone. That's really what it is.
Well, he's kind of getting up there. I mean, my wife has fallen in love with this Tulsa King series that he's doing right now, but he's not the same, Rambo that I remember growing up.
No.
But
he's moving a little slower these days.
Yeah, he's moving a tad slower.
We all are.
Yeah, you get definitely right about that. Where can people follow you and all the work that you are doing, and your recent documentary that came out about J6, and then also when can we expect the follow-on, the sequel to that?
Well, you can find me at Yes Nick Searcy on Twitter. You can find Capital Punishment is out on my locals page. If you go to nicksearcy.locals.com, you can watch the movie there. And there's a film that just came out in January with Nicolas Cage called The Old Way that I'm in. That's on, I believe it's on Amazon or Netflix now, one of the two.
And you're also on Fox Nation right now talking about the death of Hollywood, correct?
Right. Yeah. That documentary came out, I think, a week ago.
Wonderful. Well, again, Nick Searcy, I cannot tell you enough. Thank you. And as a person that served 22 years in the United States military, you're the reason why I took the oath. To protect you so that you can go out there and do the things that you are doing and make sure that you get the truth out about what's happening in our country. So God bless you, sir.
God bless you, Alan. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
All the best. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us on this episode of the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. And special thanks to Nick Searcy for taking time out of his busy schedule to be with us. And we got to start supporting those films that conservatives are putting out there, because if we don't, then they won't be able to make them. So please, if you like this podcast, hit the like button and share it with others. And until next time, steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.